Hi everyone, in this video I wanted to show everyone how to make a bit of a modular cave system by using a sort of simplified texture atlas. And by texture atlas is kind of not exactly the right term for it, but it's something where you're going to have a bunch of textures on one sheet, and we're going to reference that in a few different ways. So how do you do that? I'm going to make sure that I start with a cube, and if I look at my dungeon here, I want to make sure that my cube is going to be the same size for the modular assets that I've been doing here. And this means that this is actually going to be a 2 for scale. And I want to make sure that I have my pivot point at the bottom. So now if I were to line that up with my grid, I should see that snapping to that same spot. So that's good. I'm going to hide everything else. Now what I'm going to be doing here is taking this cube and actually turning it into a cave system. So I'm actually going to take out this piece, and actually before I do that, let me just increase my height to 2 and snap that here, snap it to there. Okay, so now I got this twice as high. I'm going to delete this piece out, and I'm going to move this up. So now that I have something like this, what I'm going to be doing is making it so for this piece, now there's a lot of different ways that you could do this, but for this, what I'm planning on doing is making it so these would be like corridors or a tunnel, and I can repeat pieces over and over again like this, so that way it would just keep continuing back further and further. Now I'm actually going to repeat it on just one side, and I'm going to offset some pieces and put some geometry like we did over here in there to make it feel like it's not repeating as much as it actually is going to be. So I'm going to reverse my normal, so it's on the inside now, and I'm actually going to double the distance on this, so it is actually wider as well. So now that I have that, now I know I modified my UV, so I should make sure before I do anything else that my UVs are set up correctly. I'm going to do a cylindrical unwrap here, so let's do a cylindrical and road. Oh, I don't know why I lost that. Let's grab that again and do cylindrical. Grab that and rotate it. And let's see what we got going on with our UVs here. So I've got 2 of them. I need to rotate it this way a little bit more so I have all 3 of them. And now, let's see. I have top, bottom, or side and bottom. That's good. Let's orient this the way it's supposed to be. I'm going to go to transform and rotate it. So now I have top there and there. I'm going to go to UVs and scale these so they're the right, they're lined up better. And now I can see a little bit of stretching going that way, so I need to actually pull that this way. And for the top, do the same thing. So we're giving it a little bit more. Okay. Now, turning this off, UV shell, scaling this so it actually fits on the 0 to 1. This is what I am left with. So I'm going to probably shift some stuff around as I go, but this is a good starting point for me to be able to work with my thought process here on how to make a repeating texture. Now, this is something that, as you can see, it's only going across and filling up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if we really want to do this in a way that we know we're using up all of our UVs, we can go ahead and take our vertices, and since we know this is 1, 2, 3, 4, hold down X, and let's snap that so it's now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or I can't count, 2, 4, 6, 7. We'll go back down to 6, and now that I have that, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Let's see what our UVs are doing. So now that they're stretching, let's fix that this way. We should see that, yeah, we have a little bit of stretching, but this lays out a lot better. And now we're using the entire UV sheet up. So I like that. It's going to be a lot easier for me to work with. And I'm going to have a lot of stuff I can do with this. Let me just verify in the top that I don't have a lot of distortion too. Okay, that's pretty good. So now that I have something like this, I'm going to go ahead and save this UV snapshot as a PNG. And that's going to be under, where am I? My repeating textures project here. Okay, so that's under games, modular level. Okay, so I'm going to put that under images, and we'll call that cave UVs. Okay, so now that I have that, this actually needs to be 24 by 24, 1024 by 1024. Hit apply, close, and I already have 2 textures in the oven here that I was going to use as references, or at least starting points for this. These are from textures.com. And they are set up so they're at the 1024 by 1024 texture sheet. I'm going to go ahead and open that file that I just made. And that's going to be under games, modular level, and images, and KVVs. Okay, let me open that up. And now, Control A, Control C, Control, oop, not that one, right here, Control V. Okay, I can't see it. That's okay. We can easily select that layer and go to our stroke and increase our stroke so that way it's visible. It's visible. I can work with that. Now, is it going to the edge? No, but that's a good starting point. I can clean this up when I get this into Maya. I want this as a placeholder. So what I'm trying to do is make the caves, so this is my wall and it'll be my ceiling, and my floor will be like this dirt path. So to do that, I'm gonna first start with my walls. I know that this isn't repeating, so what I'm gonna do is go to filter, other, offset, and I want this to be 512 by 512. Okay, now my guides are on, and so it's making it hard to see. So I'm going to move this over, see if I have any seams. Since I downloaded a seamless texture, it seems like it's okay. Seams and seamless, I know, but it seems like it's okay. The problem is that I don't like some of the stuff that's going on in here. And again, when you have repeating textures, certain things are going to catch the eye very quickly. And the things that I don't like are these weird gouges in the sides of the rock. So the way I'm going to change this is I'm going to go ahead and bring this back to the way I usually have that. I'm going to go into my magical blood cleanup tool here. And by that I mean let's see, where did you go? Okay, so if your menus start to disappear, you can go to Windows, Workspace, and just reset it to default. I'm going to go to where's my little video shows up? Oh, got some blood, spot healing brush tool. So I'm going to use that one. And before I can work with it, because I referenced this in, I need to rasterize this. So I'm just going to right click, rasterize it, and now I should be able to paint this. what I'm going to do is get a large brush and click and see what that does to my rock. Now, it sort of works. I'm going to have to do some more cleanup after this. But the main thing is that we're just trying to clean areas that have massive gouges. This already worked out really well for me, so I don't think I need to go too much further there. The main thing is that I do still see that softness there, so what I'm going to use is my clone stamp brush, and I'm going to sample a spot like maybe here. And so if I sample here and I got an error, and oh, whatever reason I'm back onto that one. There we go. All right, sampling here and then painting. And we don't want to draw too much of it because it's an elevator it's repeating. So instead, I'm going to sample here and then go right next to that. And now I'm kind of building shapes by sampling different pieces at the same time. And I don't want to sample a lot every time. I just want to sample enough to mix this up. So that's looking a lot better. I like this. I'm going to use this as my wall texture. Now the ceiling. Ceiling is going to be the same thing as the wall. It's just that we want to change some of the colors on this. So the ceiling is a little bit darker than the wall, and then the wall transfers to dirt. So let's get to dirt here, or sand. And I'm going to rasterize this as well. There we go. I'm going to hit Control T and hold down Alt. And not Alt, it's the new fangled way. Shift and drag it down. So if I do that, it gave me this kind of flattened out, distorted image, which, yeah, that might be okay to work with, but I'm going to notice banding right away on this, and I really don't want that to happen. What I'm going to end up doing instead, I like the color and what's going on with this. I'm going to take this top half, Control C, Control V. I'm going to move that down into here. I'm just going to sample this by going into maybe an overlay or a multiply, or let's try a couple of these in here. There's darken, don't like it. Multiply, color burn, darker color, lighten. So there's a lot of different ones here. And I just toggle through until I find something I think that's working for me. And my goal is to get some more texture built into my sand here. So I think what I'm going to go with here, maybe a soft light. Let's turn that one on and off. I like that. I think that could work for me. I'm going to shift this down a little bit more though. Okay. And I'm actually going to merge this now. So if I merge this, these are now one layer. And I'm going to grab from the bottom up here, Control T. I want this part to be the base over here. So I'm okay if it stretches a little bit, but I didn't like that massive amount of stretch that was happening earlier. So I'm going to go around here. Now that I have something like this, and again, this will apply to whatever you guys are working on differently, but this is fine for what I'm doing. I'm going to delete out this piece. And of course, it deleted the exact opposite, so we're going to go do that again. All right, now we got to get our mask, and I'm going to sample like a textured brush here. So I want that to be, I'm going to go natural brushes. Let's try natural brushes 2. Let's go with something. Not really into any of those. Thick heavy brushes. Let's try something like this. Or there we go. Here's something that's a little bit better. I'm gonna go with this dry brush on towel. And what I want to do here is I want to paint out this so it kind of blends in with my other layer. So I'm just basically knocking back that layer, and I'm even using my mouse right now. I'm not using a walking tablet. What we're doing is just trying to blend these two together, and we'll just keep that going until I get around to that area right there. Now that I have something like this, I can go and use like just a round brush, soft round, and clean up further some of these spots. Now my flow is set to 16. I'm going to definitely increase that and just get rid of some of this stuff right here. Okay. Now I have this. The colors, we'll have to adjust. We'll have to look at this in 3D. But I know the top I wanted to have darker, and the sides, maybe a gradient going up. This will be the lightest part of it, and then the top will be darker. So that's an easy thing for me to be able to do. So I have my UVs here, and this is actually my texture, so I should call that wall texture. And now inside of here, I want to make another layer. And with this layer, I want that to be a gradient. So I'm going to go to my gradient tool, which is probably staring me right in the face. It's just that I'm super tired. Okay, so I got my gradient tool, and I'm going to go and change this. Again, never use just black. Use a different color. This has got some yellow browns in that, so I'm going to go something like that. And I want this to be like this. So the middle section, if I draw this out, I got something like that. That's what I'm going for. So I'm going to hold down Shift and drag. So I have something like that. Again, we'll go with something like this. I want to drop my opacity on this. I don't want it to be super, super overly obvious. And I'm also going to change this to be multiply. Now you'll notice how that's kind of affecting this in a less just intense. So our opacity was set to 100. I'm dropping that like 64 or something like that. That looks fine. And that difference between normal, not as noticeable here, but multiply helps to kind of blend that in. I'm going to do that again. So I have this layer, and I'm going to add another gradient, but I'm going to go from this section up. And to do this correctly, I'm going to actually do that same, this one right here where it goes from the middle. I'm going to go around here again. And I want to change that. No, I think that's okay. So I've got this. Now this is a gradient that's going across this it's absolutely just linear, although it's faded. There's no dips. There's no it's not paying any attention to any rules for how this should actually look as a shadow or anything like that. So what we could do is use the smudge tool, and I'm going to increase the size on this quite a bit. Start pushing that around. So I've got highlights on my rock, and I've got shadows on it. So kind of building up a natural set of lighting on there. Now that I have this, I'm going to make another layer above it. Use the B key, make this set to multiply as well. And I'm going to drop my flow, and we're going to paint even more shadows underneath some of these rocks just to push the depth on that. And we'll do that over here as well. Alright, we're at a good spot where we should test this. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off the UVs, and I'm going to go to File, Save As, and we'll call this PNG. I think everything I've been doing is 512 so far, so this is larger. but as you saw, it was a larger size piece that I was creating. This will be called cave wall color. So now that I have this, I'm going to go into Maya, and I need to add that to my materials. So I'll just duplicate one of these, add that as cave wall MAT, and for my color, file, we'll use that, and I'll hit open. Alright, now we can actually see what the heck is going on. I'm going to take this and add it, and this is what I have. And holy crap, is that not an exciting looking cave. I'm going to duplicate this and rotate it so I can see what the other side is doing. So I'm going to do, actually not rotate it. We're going to duplicate this, but we're going to flip the scale on it as a negative, what is that, X, so -2. And now I have this. If I look through this, okay, now I can see how that's sort of working. I do have a problem with my seam, and I can address that very quickly, but I'm not even concerned about the seams yet. What I'm really concerned about is how flat this looks. So I'm going to delete this side again, and I'm going to fix that by, first let's look at our UVs. Okay, so the reason why that was looking a little bit weird is because my UVs were off 0 to 1. Always a good idea, first thing to check is your UVs. If something doesn't look like it's matching up right, that's probably the first place to start, is UVs. I have all that, and now all of that should have fixed itself now for my seams. Alright, let's make this more three-dimensional. And to do that, I'm going to use my multi-cut. And I'm going to go across this midsection. And okay, I'm going to just start cutting at certain points here. I don't know why I have a vertex here, so I'm going to delete that. Multi-cut, to start cutting in areas that we think we can use to push and pull the dimensionality of our wall around with. I'm actually going to go from the top here and then cut down, and let's actually go and end that there. So we'll go maybe something like this. Now again, there's no right answer on what you should be looking for this, because you're following, or at least you should be following what your texture is showing you. So I'm doing this based on what my texture is seeing and what I'm trying to get out of it. You may have a whole different look that you're going for. This is what I have, and I'm going to start to move around some stuff. So I'm going to go in here, grab these, pull. Grab this, maybe push that out. This one, maybe pull that. This, pull. And push. Okay, we're definitely trying to stay away from modifying our edges. Now we can, but we need to make sure if we do modify edges, if I repeat this, it stays the same. And right now, you'll notice that's looking a lot better. I'm going to delete that one, and I'm going to do a little trick here to get this to look less like it's a hard edge. Just use a bevel, and we're going to reduce the fraction on that, so it's going to be smaller. We're also going to add another segment to it. And now we have a much more organic looking piece. Now this glitched when that went over, so what I'll have to do is bring this one over here and try and match up this one to that one. not a big deal, but that one little bevel that I added, since it was on a triangle right there, is definitely giving me a glitch. So another thing I can do is just to cut there. I'm gonna delete out that one. Now I know I have an n-gon there, but that will get fixed. I'll hit bevel now. I don't have that little problem, and I can increase the segments on that and now fix that. So these are little tricks, like I said, that, you know, it takes practice and just experience to really get this down. Once you start to figure this stuff out, though, it makes such a difference. These little tricks, you know, it's like in anything else for a career. You'll learn these things, and it just becomes second nature as you go. I'm trying to make sure I don't have a curvature that keeps happening. I want to make sure things flow smoothly here. So I got that. Duplicate, bring that over. That's not looking too bad there. I'm going to actually take all this now, duplicate, and then let's mirror this over on a -2. And by mirror, I mean duplicate over on -2. And now I have a cave that I can go through. Now, there is an issue that I'm not liking, and I'm seeing it here, but that's good. I can fix that very quickly. I see that I have this natural arch happening, and that's not really what most caves would probably have happening. So I'm just going to take this one and tweak that, and we'll delete all the other ones. We'll check this out now. If this is our pivot point, and we duplicate and move another one over, if it's seaming, looks like it's fine there. And we'll duplicate, and we can mirror this over as well, and snap that, duplicate that, snap that. Let's look at the ground. We're going to turn off grid, and now we have a little bit of a seam on the bottom of this, and this could be because of bleeding that happens. We've talked about this before. I don't know if we did this in videos, but in class we have bleeding occurs when it goes with something outside of the parameter of the 0 to 1. You'll see that start to repeat, and it's more obvious as you have a drastic change in color. So if this top part is a different color than the bottom, when these pixels are close to each other, it kind of bleeds into the other one. What I'm going to do to eliminate that is just take my UVs, and you can see where that is. I'm going to move that beyond that little spot right there. That should, yep, that fixed it. So these didn't have that fixed. I'll get rid of them. But now I have something that I could use, that now that I have all this, duplicate that, bring this over here. I can clean up that spot too. I can see a definite trail there, but you know, for the sake of right now, this is looking pretty good. How can I make this fork off or do something like that? That's actually not too terrible of a thing to have to do. We can pay attention to turns by adding a curve. We could take all of this, I can combine it. Let's say mesh combine. Man, I'm tired. Okay, got that. And now I would use something like this. I would take a pipe or a torus, and I don't want it to be this crazy. I want this to have maybe like 8. And what this is doing for me is helping me figure out, I'm gonna go 16, how I can get that transition to go from one angle to another. So if I delete out this and this, okay. So this kind of helps me to see what I have to do to get this to match up. I'm going to hit the D key to get myself my pivot in the middle. Duplicate this. Snap it. Whoa. Duplicate, snap forward. Okay. And now that I have both of these, I can try to emulate what that curve is trying to accomplish by giving, so I'm going to combine all this, so mesh, combine. Let's see if we can give this a deform, nonlinear, and bend. And I want my curvature to be occurring, let's say -90, and let's say that's 90. Okay, so that's too much. So that means that's 45. Okay, so it may not look correct right now. But if we were to take this thing, I'm gonna freeze this, delete history, snap that to here, and then move this over, go to top view, I can easily get this to be a modular curve, and I can do that either direction, you know. So there's a curve in my piece. Now I had that going across 2 spans of that. I felt that would be a little bit easier to do, but you can see how this can be done in a few different ways. So pretty simplistic stuff here. I am noticing right now, let me hide these pieces, that when I was doing this, I didn't continue over my vertice over that side. It's a good idea to do that. The reason why is because if you don't have the vertices connecting, so if I duplicate this and move this over now, there's a good possibility if I didn't have these 2 vertices matching up, that I would end up having some really weird holes in this. So I'm actually, let me delete that one. Multi-cut, let me see my wireframe on shaded here, and I'm going to do multi-cut, cut from here, zoom in to there. Okay, and that's how we can fix that, is by adding that one there, just to ensure that they're gonna be as seamless as possible. So yeah, last thing I wanted to cover here, how do we make this feel a little bit more like it's a cave? Well, we got to put some rocks down. We got to add some little tiny details in here that add to that feeling of it being an organic space. And also, we need to make sure mesh display soften edge on these little spots is added. You don't want that to have a hard edge, because you wouldn't find that in nature. So yeah, how would we add that to here? Little stalactites and stalagmites. Again, I always go to my default, something like a cube. And if not a cube, maybe a cylinder that we have taken and really reduced the polygons here. So let's say this is going to be like a 5. That's perfect. Okay. Get rid of stuff we don't need. Scale it. Move this up. Move that up. Scale it. And I'm going to squish this on this axis so I have something like this. Alright, again, I want to make sure that mesh display, soften edge, so these don't have any weird look to it. You'll notice anytime you have super low poly that you'll get that weird shadow. It's because our normals don't know how to interpret that sharp of a face. There's a couple different ways that deal with that. We could just add more definition to this. Not a lot. But if we do something like that, or we even go, I'm going to add another edge loop here, and then this edge loop I'm going to bring down and squish that down. What that will do is limit how much of that tip that's going to have that normal issue. So now we have less of that problem. So, alright, I've got this. I want this to be UV unwrapped, so I'm going to go into UVs. I'm going to do cylindrical. And for the sake of time, we're going to say that that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. We're going to add the same material to this. Now you don't have to do that. I'm just putting something on here that will resemble that arcade. And I'm going to sample something like that. Now, I've got this thing. Move this in. And not too bad. Give it some friends. I'm starting to talk like Bob Ross, and I'm not trying to. Happy little stalactite or stalagmite, whatever. And don't go crazy with this, because what we could do is, you got that one now, you've already got it UV unwrapped, then take this whole shell, move it somewhere else. Now they don't look the same. Don't UV unwrap everything every time. If you know that's going to be a shape, do your UV unwraps first and then move some stuff around. I don't know why this just forgot who it was. It went green on me. It's not a good sign. Okay, they're back. And so yeah, this is how we can build up the definitions in our or the details in this scene. We don't have to sit there and go crazy. We can use simple models that we've UV unwrapped, and just taking all this now and flipping it to the other side and making sure that we don't have both sides looking the exact same way. That's easy. And then again, I'm gonna take a cube and I'm gonna mesh smooth, and let's shrink that one down and put that like right here. And it's not going to be the best looking rock because I haven't done anything to it yet, but that's something I could work with. I could throw that right here and then again add that same material to it. And right now it's picking off the wrong spot because it's using the whole model. But if I were to take this and then go and look at it like this and do UV automatic or based on camera, so camera based, shrink it down. For a lot of the times this is terrible, but for making tiny little pieces of details that we would use like this, I think that's a pretty acceptable way of cheating. You don't want to have that on a really high detailed spot. It's better to do something like what I just did here. Having it where it's like it's on a spot like this can sometimes draw too much attention to a minor detail like this, and we really aren't going for that. We're just going for little tiny rocks that are going to be littering the cave sides. Now, if you're starting to see stretching there, that's the part that when I grade and I see things like that, it hurts. I go for a long walk. I shake my head. So instead, oh look at this, just scale that part up, and now you've got that stretching to go away. So easy way to make ourselves some rocks. And obviously don't use the same exact texture space. I see the dot and the dot, so shell, move it. And then now you've got another one, but now I got shadows on this one, so I'm going to go to a non-shadowy spot, maybe scale it, squish it. Got some cracks on that one, that's not what I wanted. So I'm going to go here, rotate that. It's a lot better. Okay. And for whatever reason, the universe likes things in threes. So we can give that a rock buddy. And then change the shape of that one too. And now you've got some little pieces of rock on the side. There's even more. So for very little amount of polygons, you've got some rubble and stuff on the side of your cave. Let's just see what this looks like for fun with this duplicated. So I'm going to combine that, and I'm going to grab this, snap that there, duplicate, and scale it on a -1. Okay, and this is where symmetry is your worst nightmare if you're duplicating things when it comes to detail. So instead of you duplicating all of these little pieces, you'd actually have these pieces that you duplicate and put in different spots. You'd be detailing and dressing the setup more than that. But as you can see, hopefully you can see, I'm going to turn off my lighting, so flat lighting here. This is what I have. If this were put in an engine, this would look pretty nice. And that's just a little bit of work that I had to do. If you were to bake some normals and some specular on that, you would get so much out of this. And again, very, very, very simple procedure to create something like this. All right, that's it for this one.